Well, now that you guys all know my deepest secrets of my life, I spent a lot of my 20s dating someone who was physically abusive, and it's a fucking crazy experience because it's like, you know what's happening, but it doesn't feel like it's happening to you. Fuck. I got really lucky. The person that did this to me tried to kill me, and then I had to tell someone to survive. And if I hadn't told someone in that moment to physically save my life, I don't know that we would be here. I don't know that we would have a kid. And, so I started trying to write this in 2021, right when I got out of rehab. All those things are real. And I felt like almost 12 months was enough space from the experience to like turn it into something more intellectual and artful. So I wrote a script, and then I showed it to Keese, and then I was like, fuck, I never want to look at that script again, I hate this. And then I spiraled again for another year. And then a year later, I sat in my car while Keese was getting his haircut, and I wrote this stream of conscious. It was 30 pages of everything that happened and what it felt like. And I closed that Google Doc, and I never looked at that again for a year. And then after a Film Friends where we showed like films about trauma, me and Keese have weird like ESP. So I was like looking at him in the car, and he's like looking at me in the car, and he's like, fuck, we gotta make that film. And I read him all 30 pages while we were driving to Boulder to get the kid. And we were both fucked up sobbing. And then I'm like, I never wanna look at that again. I can't turn it into art, it's too hard. And then this summer, once they got the space, I was like, you know what, I just need to make it. Like very Rick Rubin Creative Act coded. I was like, I just need to make it. Let's just like, I'll read the whole 30 pages. I'll just sit there and read 30 pages. And he was like, Lee, you could do that if you wanted, but I don't know if that would be interesting. But that led me to putting the 30 pages in a Google Doc and starting to just like manipulate the words and consider what parts of the story that I wanted to tell. And I will say we made like a bunch of ground rules before we wrote that were like, we're not gonna show physical violence. We're never gonna talk about my abuser directly in this, because at the end of the day, it's not even fucking about him. Like it has nothing to do with him. It's how I internalize the experience that is the relevant part. And I decided to act because I felt like it would be really intense for someone else to have to act that out. And Keese actually made it good because it was just like these scenarios, and I was picturing us in situ, like outside with a mirror, and that's where there's like birds chirping. And I was picturing us like in a bar, and then he was like, you know, when you used to talk about dissociating, it's like a part of your brain that's a memory, but it doesn't feel like your memory. You kind of feel like you're watching it from another perspective. So let's shoot it all on the psych because it's not real, but it sort of is real. And then that decision made it really easy for me to make it not like a essay about what happened, but instead just embodying that feeling of like, God damn it, why do I still have some of these feelings and behaviors? And we shot everything here. Yeah, it was $130. We did it in like probably 8 hours total. And my hope for it is just that when I got out of the situation and I had to call the hotline and talk to them and figure out what the fuck to do, I was also searching for art that made me feel like I wasn't alone in how I was feeling, and it didn't exist. So it's not preachy, it's not inspirational, there's no happy ending to that story, but there is a happy ending to my life because everything worked out perfectly. And I just want somebody else who feels like I felt in early 2021 to know that it's not always going to feel that way. So yeah, that's it. Love you guys.